2.6, 2.7, number 3, we have this x plus 2 over x plus 4, and then notice I have this negative sign out front. So I've already taken the time to type this in. So because I have more than one term on the top and the bottom, I have to put parentheses around the top and the bottom, and then do the division, and I put the negative out front. So if I graph this, it's looking like this. So I can see that we're touching the x and the y axis, and I would say this is what I call the top right, bottom left graph. And so I like to start by taking the bottom and determining what number shouldn't I use. And so if you take the bottom, set it equal to 0, and you solve that, I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides here. So I get x equals negative 4. So I go to 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, and I draw this vertical asymptote at negative 4. Now, on the top, I have an x to the first power, and on the bottom I have an x to the first power. However, be careful because there is the negative sign, so technically one of them has a negative 1 in front, so let's just call it the top. So if I have a first over a first, then what I do is what I call the leading coefficient rule, so LC over LC, and that's going to be negative 1 over 1 or negative 1. So that means I'm going to go down 1 and put in a horizontal asymptote. And then I would look for my x and y intercepts. So if I was going to do these intercepts, the y-intercept is easy to find, I think, because that's just putting 0 in for x. What happens when you put 0 in for x? And if you put a 0 here and a 0 here, what's left? So again, don't forget about that negative sign out front. I end up with 2 over 4, which is a half. And if I put a negative in front, that ends up being negative 1/2. So that means I'm going to hit right here at 0, negative 1/2. And then if I was going to do the x-intercept, that is what makes this function 0. Now, when we're looking at that, if you have x plus 2 over x plus 4, it's really what makes the top 0 without making the bottom 0. So what makes the top 0 without making the bottom 0? And if you look at that, I would say when I put a negative 2 up top, that's going to be a 0. Now the negative sign won't affect it, because if I put negative 2 in for x, I get negative 2 plus 2. So right there, which means I'm hitting here at negative 2, 0. And so if I was going to graph this, I would have one down here, we said in the bottom, what I call the bottom left, and then this one would come down, hit those two intercepts. So now go and choose the correct graph.